Good day, everybody, here in the Delaware Valley, or wherever you're listening from, to this Eagles breakdown of a victory this past week, a decisive victory yesterday on Sunday afternoon against the New Orleans Saints at home. Quite frankly, another must-win situation for the Philadelphia Eagles, and certainly without question, they delivered. And unlike the other games this season, this was, at least for the most part, I guess you could say this was the closest thing that we've had so far in the regular season, obviously, to a complete football game, to what this team is expected of, or at least has been expected of more so. The Eagles didn't get any points in the first quarter, but obviously due to Sam Bradford throwing a couple of bad interceptions in the opposing team's end zones that obviously could have very well resulted in points and should have resulted in points and perhaps touchdowns. Nevertheless, the Philadelphia Eagles were able to move the football both in the passing game and especially in the running game all game long, pretty much. Chip Kelly was really put on, not the hot seat, whether he's fired or not, but after that lackluster performance, obviously against the Redskins last week, on both lines of scrimmages, we could say, but especially the offense, which has been a problem all season, it seems, for the most part. Nevertheless, Chip Kelly was able to get the team to respond. I can't take too much away from what they were able to do this week. And, obviously moving to 2-3, especially with the opportunity, kind of the wide openness that the NFC East has this season thus far. Moving to 2-3 was obviously extremely important, as opposed to starting 1-4 and essentially at that point just pretty much putting a wrap on the season. 1-3, starting that way and then moving to 2-3. It's sort of what, not to bring up history, but in the past the Eagles have started 1-3 and they were able to make the playoffs at various times. There were a couple times, actually, during the Andy Reid season, or not season, but era, where they started 1-3, and they were able to turn it into a 10-6, or perhaps even 11-5 season at times, and ultimately made the playoffs.
Give me some good questions. Come on.
But and of course, you go back 2 seasons ago when the Eagles started 1-3 and they were able to win the, what was a weak NFC East division that year, and they were able to win it at 10-6. Look, it's possible. I guess you got to look at it one game at a time here. But obviously, this was this is what we expected out of the Philadelphia Eagles for the most part. It was a little disappointing in the beginning how the Eagles were not getting touchdowns, because obviously Sam Bradford threw a couple of bad interceptions that, the past couple of games at least he's been interception free. But these it's just like, what was that? Those are throws that he's supposed to make without even thinking about them. And there were some early situations where some people criticized Chip Kelly for going forward on 4th down, and they were kind of. I guess what I didn't really have a huge problem with them, because for the most part they were moving the football well, and even though they didn't convert, even though they have Riley Cooper out there as like the main 4th down option, I guess, for whatever reason that so be. they got a, Sturgis, the kicker, who missed if I'm not mistaken, he missed another extra point, if I'm not mistaken, or chip shot field goal. I don't know. These days, I'm starting to forget. I'm starting to misplace field goals, chip shot field goals and extra points these days, since they're, now of course they're longer. But nevertheless, I mean, we got a kicker who's, again, the state of kicking for the Eagles right now is, we got Sturgis, and that's pretty much that. We don't got an Adam Vinatieri or whoever, Steven Hauschka, unfortunately, and that's the state of kicking. And so I could understand going for it on fourth down a few times that they did and not punting the ball. And I mean, Chip Kelly kind of brought this up too. He was trusting in his defense, and for the most part, the Eagles' defense, I mean, obviously they gave up, a couple bad secondary passes, and that one touchdown that they gave up fairly in the game, it's like, that seemed like I don't know if that was, that you could maybe put that on Billy Davis or what, but there's a receiver lined up way out on the left side, and nobody's out over there to cover. Like, I don't know what that was about, but nevertheless, I mean, that didn't stop the Eagles from moving the football continuously, not to mention forcing turnovers on defense, but ultimately winning the game on the ground and through the air. Obviously, this is a kind of a bust-out game for DeMarco Murray. DeMarco Murray said last week, after only getting 8 carries in the game, he said he needs to get the ball more. And certainly this game he did. In fact, he was given 20 carries. He caught several passes, ultimately to put him, over 130 yards in overall production, or so for the game. So, I mean, he looked a little more like himself, and certainly Ryan Matthews, with his 7 or 8 carries that he had, I mean, he got 70 yards. I mean, he was running at, near 9 yards per carry average clip there. So, and Sproles had a few carries for, 5 yards or so. So, I mean, overall, the running game overall was over 170 yards this game. And this is, again, I mean, the offensive line, I mean, they weren't facing a tough defense, obviously, New Orleans. I mean, they only got their first win last week against the depleted Dallas Cowboys. So, I mean, this victory, I mean, this isn't an impressive opponent here, but the Eagles' offensive line banged up and all with, Jason Peters, Lane Johnson banged up, holes in the guard position. I mean, given the circumstances, a pretty, respectable performance out of the offensive line. And again, it was really able to help things out, open things up in the passing game, open things up more with the running game especially, which has been critical for the Eagles to do this season. And, that be with this whole 3-headed monster thing that last week I guess they just really weren't able to get going as well as they would have liked to. But Chip Kelly also said last week, initially, of course, after the Redskins game, he wasn't taking responsibility for what he was doing. And, of course, last week against the Redskins, that was a pretty poorly coached game, to say the least. Again, seemingly coming out unprepared once again in the first half, which has been a bad trend this season. And then, of course, later in that game, don't even remind me with the whole trying to run the ball at the 50-yard line and not continue to rely on your hot hand, Sam Bradford, who was having a great second half. That was a big part of that loss, of course. And after that loss, Chip Kelly kind of said, "Oh, we just got to execute better. The players got to execute better." He didn't take any responsibility for it. And obviously the criticisms, I'm sure, were heard. And then, midweek or so, Wednesday, Thursday, he starts saying, "I'm gonna evaluate my play calling, whatever. I'm gonna." As a matter of fact, it was kind of funny because he was quoted as saying, "I got to do a better job calling plays."
Time's yours.
Yeah, a little bit reminiscent of Andy Reid, of course, as if
Give me some good questions. Come on.
as if he was coached to say that. Like, I got to do a better job. It was like, and this was before any of this. This was before the Saints game, blowout or whatever you want to call it happened. So, all right, Eagles come out strong in the first half. They shouldn't have. To be fair, I mean, those two interceptions were bad on Sam Bradford. And, again, it's not that I'm expecting him to be Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or an elite quarterback. Probably, I mean, not even a top 10 quarterback, because he just isn't. I mean, there's too many better quarterbacks out there, and there's probably other guys out there in the league, obviously, who would fit, who would be able to expand the playbook of Chip Kelly more had they have more ability. But Sam Bradford, it's about, throwing the ball, because in the pocket, I mean, he's kind of a statue. He's not very mobile, but he's at least supposed to have more throwing abilities, more accuracy, more zip on the ball than Mark Sanchez, who he's, obviously he's starting over, and of course Nick Foles, who was traded to the Rams in the first place for that.
What the hell?
And yeah, I mean, maybe his shock or whatever, but nevertheless, so Sam Bradford, he's at least expected to make better throws than that. Unfortunately, 2 interceptions that, nevertheless, I mean, ultimately they didn't cost the Eagles the game, certainly, so at least everything else in the game was pretty much going in the Eagles' favor, that those weren't critical interceptions, and that the Eagles, I guess they could afford them early on. But the bottom line is, all 4 quarters here, they were able to move the football. Over 500 yards of total offense. A lot of that coming on the ground, which was, which is what we expected coming into this season for the Eagles. And again, this was with the offensive line that was really under fire and has really been questionable. And, maybe, I don't know, maybe Chip Kelly went back to the basics, maybe went back to some of the things that they were strong with. I don't know. But nevertheless, they were able to get the job done here. Good play calling, good work here. And definitely, I mean, Ryan Matthews had he only had 8 carries, but 73 yards out of those 8 carries. He was really looking good. Again, catching pass. Murray was well involved in the passing game as well, which is expected. So that's good stuff. And hey, ladies and gentlemen, there was a Josh Huff sighting this game. 4 receptions for 78 yards. Of course, he had that 41-yard touchdown pass, which he proceeded to do a somersault into the end zone. And we opened today's edition of the Tyler Werner Show post-Eagles game breakdown with Steve Miller Band, Fly Like an Eagle. And apparently Josh Huff, it seemed like that's what he was trying to do, as he somersaulted in the end zone for his first career NFL touchdown. Because, of course, didn't have one last season. So, this is one of those things. I mean, I know this is his first NFL touchdown, but kind of, act like you've been there before. I don't know. I mean, not to mention, you somersault in the end zone, and, what if the ball came loose, or worse, what if he lands bad there, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's just me. There's a few seasons ago where Jerome Simpson on the Cincinnati Bengals actually did like a front flip over a player into the end zone for a highlight. That was like the play of the year. But there was a defender there to kind of leap over, and I guess this was I don't know, just a little maybe unnecessary. I mean, I'm sure it looks great when it's they break it down on ESPN and on the Blitz or whatever and show it on Around the Horn and PTI this and that on ESPN or NFL Network, whatever. Sure, it looks great, but again, I mean, what if something went wrong? What if he landed bad and rolled an ankle or who knows, or worse? Who knows?
Why are you so stupid?
Could have been bad, but nevertheless, Josh Huff making some noise this game, I guess you can say. And, again, across the board, I mean, Zach Ertz early on, they were getting him involved. He had a nice catch or two. Brent Selleck had a touchdown, some nice play, nice designs, I guess you could say. There's the one touchdown Selleck had where he kind of just curled out into the end zone around Riley Cooper, who was kind of blocking, and just kind of 2 weeks in a row now, Selleck getting some touchdowns. So overall, the Eagles, they were spreading the ball around fairly well. Only, I guess, guy not to catch a pass here out of the mix of guys here, Miles Alston. But everyone else on the Eagles offense was pretty much, caught the ball for something. So nice work, spreading the ball around pretty well. And again, just moving the football with no problem were the Philadelphia Eagles this week. So good stuff out of them on the offense. They put together probably the most complete game that you could ask for in this situation. And they left points on the board, obviously, because Sam Bradford threw a couple bad interceptions, and hopefully he doesn't throw ones like that the rest of the season. But, then again, I don't know. An elite quarterback doesn't throw those interceptions. That's the bottom line.
Interception. Now our side's got the ball. Sorry.
Yeah, and speaking of interceptions and turnovers, credit the Philadelphia Eagles defense this game. I mean, there were some plays in this, again with the secondary that were unfortunate, but looking at the defense, and as a matter of fact, it's been a while since I even did this on the Tyler Warner Show, but you know what? It's breaking down the Eagles game. This is a pretty complete effort out of the Philadelphia Eagles, albeit against a New Orleans Saints team that is weak and is 1-4 as it is. But still coming out and I think still exceeding expectations this week. I think the Eagles are worthy of. Well, I think this week is a worthy week of having an MVP of the week, having a return. So let's fire it up.
It's time for Tyler Warner's MVP of the week.
And I think this week, if you watch the game, watch what the defense was doing, especially the guy on the Eagles defense who did not make the Pro Bowl last year, but probably should have, Fletcher Cox, who had a field day, probably NFL Defensive Player of the Week. If you ask whoever around the league, I guess barring what goes on Monday Night Football tonight with the Steelers and the San Diego Chargers. But I mean, Fletcher Cox, 6 tackles, 3 sacks, a tackle for a loss, 3 QB hits, and recovered a fumble. I don't think he forced it. Well, nevertheless, he was all over the place. 3 sacks, again, tackle for a loss on top of that, and a recovered fumble. I mean, just obviously a great performance out of Fletcher Cox. And, you know, a lot of guys on the Eagles defense. I mean, Benny Logan got in there for a few tackles for losses and a sack, and you know, other fumble. Jordan Hicks, another fumble recovery. It seems like the past 3 weeks, Jordan Hicks has either been there for an interception or a fumble recovery. So, you know, never in for Kiko Alonso and Michael Kendricks, and, you know, a couple guys. Obviously, they're banged up in the linebacker rotation. Jordan Hicks is doing a decent job, and he seems to be sometimes at the right place at the right time for these turnovers. And yeah, Byron Maxwell was there to recover one. On defense, let's see, interception-wise, Walter Thurman III, another interception on the season. Returned it for 44 yards. That was towards later in the game when, I mean, the game was kind of over, but nevertheless, I mean, that Josh Huff had a nice kick return for 40 yards, so you know, pretty good stuff. And yeah, Caleb Sturgis, he was 4 for 4 in field goals. His long was only 41 yards, but yeah, again, he did miss an extra point. So I mean, all right, it was 1 point, and I guess that's partly why. A little fun fact here: partly why the Eagles had 39 points in this game, and 39 points. That's the first time in Philadelphia Eagle franchise history that the Eagles scored exactly 39 points in a football game. So how about that? I guess I'm sure they've scored, 38 and 40 and 41, 42 before, and on. But this was the first time that 39 points exactly were scored for the Philadelphia Eagles. So, however you want to look at it, 39-17 win by the New Orleans Saints. Officiating has been under fire. As I'm well aware. Obviously, I didn't really address this on last week because I didn't read the article in the Seahawks and Detroit Lions game last week, where upon further review of the rule books, it appeared as though that fumble should not, I guess whatever, that Cam Chancellor knocking the ball free, and then a Seattle Seahawks defender intentionally punching the ball out the back of the end zone. Apparently that should have been a penalty and should have resulted in the Lions still having the ball or whatever. So that's just, another case of, I guess, bad officiating, whatever. And certainly in this game, there were a lot of picked up flags. Like there were thrown flags, and the referees would talk about it, and then, oh, no. But fortunately, that didn't really result in anything. As far as, again, it was 39-17 at the end, and that 7 came at garbage time when the game was pretty much over, and so nevertheless an Eagles blowout. And again, not to mention the Eagles left points on the board, and Sam Bradford threw a couple bad interceptions, so that's that. Now, for those who weren't aware, Chip Kelly actually received his first penalty of his career in the game yesterday. And
was that like a wise ass comment?
And yeah, it may have been because of some kind of comment he mentioned about a flag. Well, let me just, as a matter of fact, read the article. Chip Kelly kind of explained, I guess, what I guess the idea behind this penalty. Chip Kelly getting in a little bit of trouble, his first career penalty, and if okay, yeah, I was gonna say if the page would allow me to scroll down here and view this, I'd be able to explain it, but it's freezing up a little bit. Now, let me reload the page here as we attempt to read this article, this Philly.com, Philly blog article of Chip Kelly explaining why he got the first penalty of his career in the game yesterday. And for whatever reason, Philly.com is just not responding right now. And still waiting on it. Reloading the page again as I just continue to ramble on here and wait for this to load. So I can read it. So I can explain it to everybody. Maybe I should have gone to the Jeopardy theme music. In fact, here, let's try let's try changing to that for a second here. As we try to get that. All right, maybe that will. It says like block content or whatever, but all right, got it up. All right, switching back then. Near the end of the half in Sunday's game against the New Orleans Saints, someone on the Eagles bench was penalized 15 yards for unsportsmanlike conduct, nearly putting the team out of field goal range at a critical time. During his post-game press conference, Chip Kelly acknowledged the penalty was on him, saying only that he did something you're not allowed to do because you get a penalty for it. During a conversation with Sports Radio 94.1 WIP's Angelo Cataldi on Monday morning, which I actually listened to a couple hours ago, actually, on the podcast, the explanation. Kelly elaborated on the oddly timed penalty which occurred after a Drew Brees fumble late in the second quarter. It was the first penalty I had in my life, Kelly revealed. I was wrong, and it's not something to really talk about. I made a mistake, and I talked to our players about playing with emotion, not letting emotion play with them. It was a critical point in time in the game, and it was something I shouldn't have done. I'll learn from it. So yeah, again, apparently Chip Kelly with some kind of comment, I guess.
Was that like a wise ass comment?
That he said. And yeah, I mean, like I was saying, I listened to that, his explanation, and he was even joking about, maybe I should suspend myself from coming onto your radio show, Angelo, for a few weeks. And Chip Kelly taking the high road and actually admitting that he was wrong. And in some regards, again, like Thursday or whenever it was when he kind of said I had to do a better job, kind of reminiscent of Andy Reid a little bit.
Let's go have a ham sandwich.
And stuff like that. So there's there's your explanation there.
I just think somebody owes us an explanation, that's all.
And since, it's not a Time's Yours Tuesday or anything like that, but the Eagles, again, key win. Chip Kelly was under heavy fire last week, and rightfully so. I mean, he was under heavy fire from me as well. Helping this team respond, a much-needed, and at a time when they got to start playing some great football, because they have the New York Giants coming up on Monday Night Football, and they can't, if they lose a third straight division game, I mean, that's just, that can't happen. They can't allow that to happen. Especially given that the Giants were able to pull it out last night on Sunday Night Football and beat the San Francisco 49ers, who, again, that's not saying much, but nevertheless, it's, no matter who you beat, each win counts as the same in the record books. So the Giants are 3-2. The Eagles are 2-3. The Eagles have, and again, I mean, the Cowboys lose big to the Patriots. Obviously, Tom Brady having a great day. And
to me, those balls are perfect.
The Redskins lose yesterday to the Falcons. I mean, yet albeit in overtime, almost hand the Falcons their first loss of the season. But still, I mean, they're the Redskins. They're not. I mean, again, one week they'll look great, and then the next week, I don't know what to expect. So, the bottom line is this Eagles team, they have a chance to kind of keep the ball rolling here. Beat if they can beat the New York Giants and both teams be 3-3, that would be crucial. Even though they'll have to play the Panthers the week after that, very tough game before they head into the bye. And then coming out of the bye, they'd play the Cowboys in a rematch revenge situation with Braden Weeden starting the whole game. Perhaps Des Bryant, I don't know yet about that, but nevertheless, a very important game for the Eagles to win there in a revenge situation. So it's important the Eagles keep the ball rolling here. The things they were able to do, they got to build off of what they were able to do in this game. They did a lot of good things, obviously, and couldn't ask for a better response than what you got pretty much out of this Philadelphia Eagles team this week, albeit against a bad team, but nevertheless they beat them. They beat them worse than I thought they would beat them. So let's hear Chip Kelly explain. I guess post-game press conference, what made the difference for the Eagles in their win over the Saints? Let's hear Chip Kelly address some of that.
The film, what was the biggest difference you noticed with the offensive line?
Again, I said it yesterday, we just blocked better in the run game. And obviously, if we can get our run game going, then our pass game with our quick game and our play action passes off of that, I think we kept Sam clean, gave him an opportunity to throw the football. But it starts with us being able to run the football, and we did a good job of that.
Is there anything to be said for chemistry of these guys playing together a little more with each week that there should be improvement?
Yes.
It sure looked like there was more straight ahead, man-to-man blocking, not as much outside zone. And
if you watch the same game we watched, we ran sweep more than any play we ran there. So we had the ball outside more than I think we've had any game we played this year. So we ran the ball outside more than any game we played this year. So
you pitched backwards a little bit, using the pass to open up the run on some occasions. Was that something you thought you needed to do just to switch up your patterns?
No, I mean, I don't think we did switch up any patterns in terms of going backwards or something. I just think when the pass was there, Sam took advantage of it, and when the run was there, Sam took advantage of it.
So when you guys had first and goal, I think it was at the 2, you went with Matthews. Why Matthews instead of DeMarco?
Again, I don't rotate the back, so Deuce is just rolling those guys through there. So it wasn't a set formation where he was in or whatever. It was just that's what was up at the time.
When Deuce was thinking that rotation?
I don't know. I mean, the next time we had the ball down on the goal line, DeMarco ran it in for a touchdown. So I don't really look into it. I think we think of both of those guys as the same player, so it doesn't affect what we're doing from a play call standpoint. So.
I know that you're more of an action speak louder than words guy, but what did you make of Sam taking the offense and talking to them before the game and delivering a message?
I think that happens a lot on this team in a lot of different ways, so I don't think anything of it, to be honest with you.
Chip, why do you think Sam's been better in the second half of each game than the first half?
Maybe he just needs to see the looks a little bit more. He settles down a little bit. I know he has been statistically when you look at it, and he really has been better, but I think maybe he just gets settled a little bit more. That's probably a good question for him.
Is there a way to, how do you jumpstart him in earlier? Is there a way to...
We could play a game earlier. Maybe see if we get a scrimmage going before it, a doubleheader. He'd be great at a doubleheader. That'd be awesome. That's a good suggestion. I don't know. I mean, we'll talk to him a little bit about it, but I think he needs to see some things and it seems like he gets settled. He's one of those guys, I think if he gets hit, he feels a little bit better. So, but you also don't want to have him get hit. So, don't have an answer for that. But I think offensively as a group, we moved the ball well in the first half. We just didn't capitalize. Those 2 red zone turnovers really hurt us.
Of 33 running back carries, 17 came under center. What was the reason for that? Why did you think that?
Just what the New Orleans was doing in terms of where the back was offset.
So with the offensive line, was it more? Were there any kind of blocking schemes that were kind of simplified, or was it just a matter of these guys grasping?
You look at the tape. We ran the same plays we always run. We just executed them. So.
I know you said that a lot of guys are vocal about being leaders, but is it more important when it comes from the quarterback?
No, I don't think. I don't weigh where is it more important than another person being, speaking. I just think, it's obviously the guys that speak also have to be able to back it up. So, you can be sometimes they say the empty barrel makes the most noise. You're not going to get anything out of it. There's a lot of guys who talk all the time and they don't perform. It's a matter of kind of matching it up. But I know our players listen to Sam and have a good feel for Sam.
With him, was it a matter of he had to be here for a few weeks to be able to perform before he could speak?
No, I think he's performed since he's been here, so I don't. And it's not like he hasn't spoken before, so I wouldn't make a real big deal out of that. So.
When you look at Fletcher Cox's performance yesterday, you know, the 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, was there anything that like stood out beyond that, like just the way he played overall?
I really think for us, it's what Fletch has done here since we've been here. I mean, he's been a very disruptive force along the defensive line since we've been here. I think he's just starting to get noticed where he probably should have gotten before. I think you go back to last year and opponents talking about going in, getting ready to play us, and they're talking about Fletcher's name. So he was close in a couple of our earlier games, really close a couple of times in the Washington game to getting some sacks. And
all right, so yeah, as it stops on me there, maybe he needs to buffer more or whatever. I think that's enough. We'll end on that note with, Fletcher Cox. I mean, again, Tyler Warner show MVP of the week, rightfully so. 3 sacks, a tackle for a loss, a fumble recovery, and 2 forced fumbles, 6 total tackles. I mean, again, good work out of Fletcher Cox. And certainly, I mean, guys like him are certainly going to be relied upon in this game against the New York Giants coming up as we look forward to that. And a chance for the Eagles to move to 3-3 to 500 and then I guess go from there. But again, a huge game coming up here for the Philadelphia Eagles against the Giants. I mean, it's just one of those, if you can get pressure to Eli Manning and get him out of sync, out of rhythm, like we saw last year when the Eagles shut him out 27-0 in that I guess that was dubbed the blackout game when the Eagles wore black pants and black uniforms. That would be cool if they did that again this year. I mean, that's what they got to do. And the thing is, one of the keys the last few weeks is that Eli Manning, he's been getting the ball out of his hands quickly. Certainly, and that's the bottom line. You got to now you rely on the secondary, of course, to try to do their job, but you got to get in Eli Manning's face, and hopefully, Fletcher Cox, the Eagles' front 7, they can build off of what they're able to do this week against Drew Brees and pressure Eli Manning, continue to keep some turnovers coming like that. And certainly that'll see with the Eagles offense, hopefully they can continue to build off of the success of the running game that they had against the Saints this past week and the passing game as well. Hopefully Bradford will clean up his game a little bit, and as Chip Kelly was mentioning, and kind of joking about, Sam Bradford getting in a rhythm, and Chip Kelly joking about having a scrimmage, a doubleheader or something before the game or whatnot, and the bottom line, again, hopefully Sam has got to find a way to get things off the ground a little quicker. I mean, they were moving the ball well in the first half and pretty much throughout the whole game. It's just he threw 2 bad interceptions, and he's got to clean that up. And so, Giants defense, chance for the Eagles to once again have another successful day on the ground and in the air. But again, it should be a tough game for the Eagles. I mean, they beat the Giants twice last year, so I don't know. I guess some are relying that the revenge factor is there for the Giants. Who knows? We'll see. But it's a chance. Really, it's a chance for the Giants to take a pretty commanding lead in the division, at least in the early going here, and pick up a 4th straight victory, while the Eagles would then fall to 2-4 and be an 0-3 division record in the NFC East. I mean, this is a very important game coming up. Very important game for the Eagles to win here. And hopefully Chip Kelly will get this team well prepared for Monday Night Football next week. And, go from there. And hey, I mean, also, it's a good thing the the Eagles season was sort of saved in a way, but of course, we have another season that just recently started, and that's the Philadelphia Flyers season. Now, they're 2 games in, and as of this podcast, puck tonight for Monday night game rematch against the Florida Panthers is just about 15 minutes away. The Flyers, of course, against the Tampa Bay Lightning, first game of the season, last Thursday night. It was pretty interesting game. I mean, the Tampa Bay Lightning are obviously a fast team and a great team in the Eastern Conference. And they were able to, for the most part, keep up with them. I didn't see the whole game and whatnot, but I was able to see, for the first time in NHL history, the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Tampa Bay Lightning, of course, play in the very first 3-on-3 overtime in the NHL for the regular season. And I gotta hand it to the NHL and the commissioner for putting that into play. I think the 3-on-3 is better, obviously, than the 4-on-4. That was exciting. And people were joking that they wish, sometimes they just want every game to end in a tie, just so they can go into 3-on-3 overtime and see that exciting action. Now the Flyers, they came up short, unfortunately. They had, the thing about 3-on-3, you got to be careful, obviously. It kind of reminds me of like NHL hits when you had 3-on-3. NHL hits 2002 and 2003. Those classic video games and stuff like that. But it's one of those things you got to be careful. I mean, they were like back and forth, like breakaways, because it's so much more open. I mean, you take a guy away and have it, 4-on-4 is a little more open than usual, but far too often it goes to a shootout. And I like that 3-on-3, chances are it's not going to go into a shootout when you open things up like that. And at least there's still there's more spirit of the game kept to 3-on-3 hockey than if you just go to a shootout. I'm for those who know, I'm not a big fan of the shootout. I think take away and just have it come down to just breakaways alone, I don't think is fair. But at least 3-on-3 hockey, at least you still got to play some defense. There's still this and that going, whatever other elements of the game that are in play still. But it opens things up, and it's more exciting that way. So credit to the NHL for that move. That was a good idea. Many would agree. Flyers come up short in that season opener, though. I mean, they get a point out of it, given that it was overtime. But again, it was one of those kind of defensive breakdowns where the defenseman was too far up, I think, and it kind of just led to a breakaway there, and a fairly easy goal there for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I guess you got to figure out, maybe get a little more used to how you play those 3-on-3 situations and be a little more cautious of things like that. But I mean, it was exciting. I mean, Steve Mason even made a few great saves in that 3-on-3 to keep things going. I mean, it was pretty exciting, to say the least. Oh my God! And yeah, I'm sure Steve Coates on the radio broadcast, I'm sure, was going insane as well and enjoying the heck out of it. It was a good start. Good first game for the Philadelphia Flyers, but you could not say the same about that second game the other day against the Florida Panthers, when the Flyers came out absolutely flat and got beat 7-1. But again, as the puck is about to drop in just minutes, hopefully that kind of performance doesn't repeat itself as the Flyers take on the Florida Panthers once again tonight, and we'll see see what the Flyers can do this week. See if maybe they can improve and maybe get a win on the board soon enough. Because I can tell you this much: the Philadelphia 76ers are not going to be doing too much of that this season either. So again, hopefully the Flyers can maybe pick things up a little bit and start getting some wins on the board. But that remains to be seen. But again, at least if not that, then at least the Eagles season. There's been a revival here, it seems. This division's week. The Eagles looked a little more like they were expected to look against New Orleans Saints this week, and we'll see if they can continue that against the New York Giants. Monday Night Football, a week from today, as tonight's Monday Night Football game, of course, is the San Diego Chargers versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. So with that in mind, I'm done for the day here. Signing off. Well, tomorrow, as usual, the next video, we'll go around the NFL as we always do after this Monday Night Football game is in the books, as always, and talk about things that have, everything else that's going around, other things, big games that have gone on around the NFL this week. And there's been several, a few overtime games and just some interesting stuff going around the NFL. So, as always, we'll talk about those on the next video here in the Tyler Werner Show, as always.
Hi there, I'm Hank Hill. Well, I'd like to tell you what Strickland can do to meet your energy needs. You see, at Strickland, the customer comes first. It's kind of interesting, the word customer begins with CU. Well, we don't see you as just another sale, but as a member of our team. I thought you might enjoy 7.5 gallons of pure premium propane. Strickland Propane, the customer comes first.
The champion of game day catering is the official meatball of the Tyler Werner Show, Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs.
We prepare our balls over time, and that's the essence of the preparation.
On top of that, another trademark of Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs is Brady's signature rubbing process.
When I pick balls out, to me, they're perfect. I don't want anyone touching the balls after that. I don't want anyone rubbing them. To me, those balls are perfect.
What is a concern is the texture of the balls, and again, that's the point that Tom hit on hard.
The champion of all game day catering dishes is Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs, the official meatball of the Tyler Werner Show.
Okay, Rocco, pretend I'm the girl that you want to ask out on a date.
How about maybe you and I, maybe we'll go out together, get something to eat, I don't know, maybe laugh a little bit, who knows, I don't know, would you like to maybe, you want me to go out together? What do you think? Would you like to?
You need to make more eye contact and you sound way too nervous.
You want to hear me say it? You want to break me down? All right, I'm afraid. For the first time in my life, I'm afraid.
Having a tough time asking out ladies? You need to see Clubber Lang for a lesson.
Hey, woman. I bet you stay up late every night dreaming you had a real man, don't you? I tell you what, bring your pretty little self over to my apartment tonight, and I'll show you a real man.
Build confidence with the ladies like never before with Clubber Lang's dating services. The most highly recommended in all of the Delaware Valley.